All right, Brad, we can't complain about Steve Yzerman's timing of moves and the episode posting again, at least for a little while, because you walked in my front door and then I started legitimately, and I'm not making this up, cheering in my kitchen. It was me, you, and my dog, Abby. I was hooting and hollering in my kitchen, not because of the Lions' win earlier today, but because Magnus Hellberg was recalled from his conditioning stint just this evening, right before recording the podcast. So, Steve, thank you for that. Red Wings, thank you so much. And now we have some certainties, so we don't have to talk all about, this is likely to happen this week, at what point. No, we know for a fact Magnus Hellberg, after a largely successful conditioning stint, has been recalled to the main club in Detroit. What's next?
More of what there was before? Boring answer, but again, the Red Wings are still in a position where they can comfortably carry 3 goalies. What's different this time is I think Hellberg will play in the next couple games. They sent him down to Grand Rapids to get some games in, to get him fresh, to get him loosened up. It's a conditioning stint. Like, get his conditioning up, like get him game ready. In 2 days, the Red Wings have a back-to-back. Carolina, Minnesota. I would not be surprised to see Hellberg get Minnesota, just to see what they got here. If he has a half-decent game, again, you don't need your backup to be a star, but your backup can't lose you games. Your backup's got to be at least good enough to keep you in a game, not steal it. And Ned hasn't done that in quite some time.
No.
So
Ned largely at best has been fine for periods, and that's at his best.
Yeah. So, I don't expect Hellberg to be anything, I don't expect him to be a huge revelation. Can he be better than Ned? Maybe, almost probably, at this point. So, now that he's got some games under his belt and you can comfortably throw him in a game and feel like you're not putting him in at a disadvantage, that might be the one. And if not, then it's probably just going to be carrying out the 3 goalies for as long as they can.
Yeah. And to clarify, when I said Ned at his best has been fine, we haven't seen at his best remotely at all. Largely, it's been a pretty terrible season for Nedeljkovic. So that said, Hellberg was on a conditioning stint, so he was going to have to come back up soon anyways. The Griffins don't play again until the 16th, so it makes sense to bring him back right now. He's practicing with the team, getting NHL shots in practice, et cetera, and the Red Wings have the option. With the injuries, Soderblom was activated off of IR, which is great news, and then sent down to Grand Rapids to play there, which we'll talk about in a second. There are spots being freed up on the Red Wings, so they do have the option here of carrying 3 goalies. Like you said, Brad, it's for as long as they can get away with. I know it's been mentioned before that they can do the same kind of conditioning stint with Nedeljkovic. I don't know that they can do that right after Nedeljkovic has just played recently. He'd probably have to be scratched for a while before the league would approve that. Otherwise, they'll probably push back on Detroit because they don't look too fondly on things like conditioning stints being abused just for player management. But the Red Wings will have to have a decision coming up. But yeah, you're right, Brad. It's a boring answer until then. I would imagine we're not going to see Ned get a quote-unquote another chance here right away, at least. It could happen. He could play the Minnesota game, but I would bet that, Hellberg will probably see one of those games just based on what he did in Grand Rapids. He looked great the entire time, and even before the Griffins' most recent game, which was, I think, a 4-0 loss, he has ended up with a 2-2 record. Okay, whatever. 2.5 goals against average and a .932 save percentage. Like, he went down there and played like a guy who is a NHL backup caliber goalie playing in the AHL, which is what they want to see from him. So, I mean, at this point, Ned's not been good. He's been in his own head. We have not seen a solid 60 minutes from Alex Nedeljkovic since last season? Pretty much.
Early last season.
Well, he recovered with some shutouts towards the end of last year too, or at least one shutout, unless I'm mistaken.
That's only a couple games though. It was good to see. It gave you a glimmer of hope for this season, but
you mean a consistent Ned game over game? Yeah, it's not been since early last year. I think they have to try Hellberg. I think they have no other choice. Now, I do hope the end result here isn't that the Red Wings lose Nedeljkovic for nothing on waivers. I know a lot is made of guys who have the talent and have the potential. There's a million guys outside the NHL who have the talent and potential, but just never put it together. Putting it together is 90% of being in the show. But Ned does have talent, and it just sucks to have seen it and now not see it. I don't have a lot of hope that he's going to rebound and all of a sudden be like a starting caliber goalie, but I would love to just have the situation work out where the Red Wings can give this time, pretty much juggle between him and Hellberg with Husso starting, and do the best they can to both give Ned a time to reset. If they do end up having to waive him, hopefully at a time where a team doesn't want a bottom tier goalie in terms of goals saved above expected for $3 million, and he'll just clear waivers. But there are options here for the Red Wings. I do think the next step, though, is that we see Hellberg in some capacity.
At this point, he almost has to play. Otherwise, what was the point? Like, again, to not oversimplify too many things this episode, you didn't claim him for nothing. You got to play him eventually. And, a back-to-back when Nedeljkovic is struggling mightily feels like the right time to do it.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of argument about this, folks who are pretty, done with Ned, and they're like, if you waive him, whatever. Like, outside of the start of the season with Detroit and his 20-ish games with Carolina, he's not shown a lot. And I've seen a lot of people who cite those exact same 40 or so games or whatever as a reason why he should stay. So I don't think either camp can argue, though, that the performance hasn't been there from Ned. And if this team does want to win as many games as they can, which I know is a ridiculous thing to say, but this is not a team gunning for Connor Bedard in the draft right now. That much is plain. You need a better option as your backup goalie. So can't argue with the decision. I think it's the right call. I hope to see Hellberg come in and have a great time. Honestly, just to see the pads again. They've landed in Detroit. They've been shipped from Sweden, so they're in Detroit now. So we'll probably see him wearing them soon enough. Which is cause enough to see the guy in net. He's had great pads everywhere he's gone. Ottawa, Seattle, Detroit, they've been awesome.
Hey, don't half-ass anything.
No, you can appreciate it. You're a big gear guy. I'm actually surprised you didn't. Between how insane you are as a person, like you're genuinely a lunatic, and how big you are on gear, I'm surprised you didn't end up being a goalie.
Don't you put that evil on me.
What if Hank asks to be a goalie?
Don't you put that evil on me.
You tell him politely but firmly to F off.
Mika had her one game in net this year, as they always do in Timbits hockey. She loved it, had a ton of fun, hasn't asked to go back in yet. It's perfect.
I'm big on, causing minor but not insignificant grief in your life. I think that's funny, but I would never go so far as to inspiring your kids to be goalies.
No, even with my discount through work, there is not a human alive that can actually truly afford their kids to be goaltenders.
Parents of goaltenders, you are saints. Thank you for your service, because we all need goalies. Every beer league will tell you that. You're braver people than Brad, and probably me.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockey Town Evan.